Welcome back to Mrs. B History. Today we're travelling over 400 years into the past to a time when Europe's merchants were desperate to get their hands on some of the most valuable goods on earth. And the place they were all sailing towards? India, one of the richest and most powerful regions in the world during the 16th and 17th century. So grab your imaginary passport because we're heading straight into the world of Mughal emperors, European traders, and even a man nicknamed Diamond Pits. Imagine a place so wealthy, so packed with colour, sound, and sweet smelling spices that European merchants would travel for months through storms, disease, and the unknown just for the chance to trade there. That place? India in the 1500s. Back then, India wasn't just rich, it was one of the richest regions on the planet. You'd walk through markets overflowing with bright blue indigo dye, sparkling saltpetre, a key ingredient for gunpowder, mountains of sugar, a luxury in Europe, and most importantly, cotton and silk fabrics so colourful and soft that European clothing seemed dull by comparison. European merchants knew that buying these goods in India and selling them back home could make them unbelievably wealthy. But there was a catch. India didn't allow just anyone to stroll in and start trading. Foreigners needed official permission, and getting it wasn't easy. During the 15 and 1600s, most of India was ruled by the Mughal Empire, one of the most powerful empires in world history. They were originally warriors from Central Asia who swept into India in the 1500s and built a massive empire. At its peak, the Mughal Empire governed more people than all of Europe combined. Their wealth was legendary. Palaces made of marble, jewels the size of fists, and art, architecture and culture that amazed everyone who encountered them. But ruling such a huge area was complicated. So the Mughal emperor divided India into provinces and placed each one under the control of a prince or a noble called a Nawab. A Nawab was like a regional governor, but with a more bling and more power. He controlled the land, collected taxes, and crucially, had the authority to grant or deny trading rights to Europeans. So if merchants from Europe wanted access to India's riches, they had to impress not just the emperor, but also the local Nawab who controlled their chosen port. One wrong move and the deal was off. The first Europeans to reach India by sea were the Portuguese, who were soon followed by the Dutch, English, and French. But this wasn't a peaceful, friendly business trip. It was more like a 1600s version of a corporate battle royale. Each nation desperately wanted Indian goods, and each one begged Mughal officials for permission to trade. Once granted access, they built coastal trading ports called factories. Not factories that manufactured goods, but large, fortified warehouses where goods were stored, sorted, and sold. And they needed those walls. Rival European countries attacked each other's factories, hijacked ships, and even went to war over control of Indian trade. So why did they do this? Because Indian goods meant power, profit, and prestige back home in Europe. On the 31st of December 1600, something huge happened in England. Queen Elizabeth granted a group of merchants a royal charter, officially creating the East India Company, often called the EIC. This wasn't a government agency, it was a private company, but with powers that no company would ever be allowed to have today. The East India Company could make its own money, build forts, sign treaties, hire soldiers, even go to war. Basically, it was a business acting like a mini country. Throughout the 1600s, the Mughal Empire allowed the East India Company to set up trading posts in three major locations: Bombay or Mumbai, which was on the northwest coast, and Calcutta or Kolkata in the wealthy province in Bengal. These three coastal cities became the backbone of British trade in India. But, and this is important, at this stage Britain wasn't ruling India. They weren't conquering land or controlling people. They were simply traders, allowed to operate under Mughal permission. India was too powerful, too organised and too wealthy for the British to even imagine taking over. Well, at least for now. Now let's focus on one colourful character, Thomas Pitt, better known as Diamond Pitt. Pitt first sailed to India in 1674 hoping to strike it rich. He worked for the East India Company, but he also secretly ran his own private trading business, something the company absolutely hated. Then, around 1701, Pitt got hold of a diamond, but not just any diamond. As you can see in the picture, it was massive. It was a 410-carat monster, the largest known diamond in the world at that time. Owning it was like owning the crown jewels. In 1717, Pitt sold this enormous gem to the French royal family for a massive profit, 5 times what he paid. That one sale made him incredibly rich and he returned to England with a fortune. Men like Pitt, Europeans who made huge amounts of money in India, were nicknamed Nabobs, based on the Indian word Nawab. The nickname suggests wealth, luxury, and sometimes just a little bit of snobbiness. So this era, when European traders first entered Mughal India, was the beginning of an enormous global change. India was a world economic powerhouse. Europeans were desperate to tap into its wealth. The East India Company gained more influence and power. Characters like Diamond Pitt showed just how profitable England could be. Within a century, the East India Company was shifted from trading to ruling, creating an empire within an empire. But that part of the story comes later. So, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed exploring the world of Mughal India and the rise of the East India Company, stick around for the next episode of Mrs. B History, where things get even more dramatic. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or more realistically, tell your teacher you learned something awesome today.